My name is Arden Vale, and I'm 35 years old. People like to say weddings reveal who you really are. I think they just remove the polite wrapping. What's underneath was always there. I proposed to Marcus last year, after 3 steady golden seasons together. He was charming, attentive, good at ordering wine and remembering birthdays. His parents had money, old and lacquered, and treated events like performance art. They insisted on a 250-person wedding. He called it a dream. I called it a budget. We compromised by me paying for what I could. Somehow, what I could became about 60%. The venue deposit, the photographer retainer, the caterer's first installment. The venue alone was 15, already paid. Every time I asked if this scale felt necessary, Marcus's smile tightened like a bow pulled too far. "It'll be perfect," he'd say. "Trust me." The part that mattered most to me wasn't the flowers, or the chargers, or the 7-course menu that made my accountant wince. It was my brother, Hayden. He's 38, and after our parents died when I was 22, he taught me how to breathe through grief and pay bills on time. He worked 2 jobs so I could finish college. He listened the night I said I was afraid I'd become a ghost in my own life. He didn't let me. He's blunt, funny, protective, the kind of man who stands between you and the storm and calls it weather. Marcus tolerated Hayden the way people tolerate seatbelts, necessary, but restricting. He's opinionated, Marcus would say. He has notes on everything. Hayden had offered exactly 3 suggestions. Ditch the gold-plated chargers, reconsider the 7 courses, and please don't spend $3,000 on chocolate swans. Hardly sabotage, just common sense. Last Tuesday, Marcus set 2 cappuccinos down with the careful grace of a maitre d'. About to deliver bad news, he's practiced in the mirror. "Arden," he began, that wedding coordinator tone sliding into place. "We need to talk about Hayden." "What about him?" I asked, though the cold front had already entered the room. "He makes me uncomfortable." His eyes flicked to mine, searching for compliance. "He judges everything. That look he gives me, like he's waiting for me to mess up." "He's my only family," I said. Calm. Fact. A quiet cross on the map you do not move. "I've made a decision," Marcus said, and the confidence in his voice made my skin go tight. "He's uninvited from the wedding." I laughed. A quick, incredulous sound. "That's funny." "I'm serious," he said, mouth flattening. "My wedding, my choice." I barely heard the rest. The room slowed until there was only the espresso machine hissing and my heart doing the same. I pictured Hayden's face the day I told him I was engaged, the way he hugged me like relief had a shape. I pictured the empty space he'd leave at the end of the aisle, and my grandmother's ring, flashing on my hand like a warning in a storm. I said very gently, "He was supposed to walk me down the aisle." "Your cousin Brittany can do it," Marcus replied instantly. "I've met Brittany twice," I said. "This is about our future," he insisted. "I need you to support me. He makes me anxious, Arden. On the happiest day of my life, I shouldn't feel judged." There it was, the smooth veneer cracking just enough to show the control underneath. He wasn't asking me to support him. He was asking me to stand alone. I studied him, really looked. The curated charm, the certainty that I would fold because love compromises. "You know what?" I said at last. "You're absolutely right." Relief lit his face. "Really? Thank you, baby. I knew you'd—" "Your wedding," I said quietly, sliding the phrase between us like a blade. "Your rules." He laughed, giddy, missing the undertow. "Exactly. And since it's your wedding," I added, rising, "you don't need me there either." His smile evaporated. "What are you talking about?" "I'm uninviting myself," I said, "from your wedding." "Don't be dramatic," he snapped, the mask slipping. "It's one person." "The one person who kept me alive when life tried to make me small," I said. "The one person who raised me when nobody else could. But sure, just one person." He followed me down the hall, words tumbling over each other, compromise, anxiety, boundaries, until they sounded like static. I opened the safe, took out a velvet box, and held it. My grandmother's ring, platinum, delicate. It had survived a war, a marriage, and 3 recessions. It would survive this. "What are you doing?" Marcus demanded, color rising high. "That's our ring." "It's my grandmother's ring," I corrected, calm as sleep. "Your wedding, your ring to provide." "You're being ridiculous," he shot back. "Fine, he can come. Happy?" I clicked the box shut. "Too late," I said. "You showed me who you are, someone who isolates me from the only person who's never asked for anything but the truth." His phone started buzzing. His mother, then his sister, the chorus line assembling backstage. Mine lit up with matching numbers moments later. I powered it down, packed a bag, zipped it with the certainty of a door closing. Hayden opened his apartment door before I finished knocking. He took one look at my face and the overnight bag hanging off my shoulder and pulled me into a hug that found the exact place the world had bruised. "Tell me," he said. So I did. The whole, stupid, expensive story. The uninviting. The line that moved once and would not move again. He listened, jaw tightening. When I finished, he said, "You hungry?" Which is brother code for "you did the right thing." He heated leftover lasagna, set a fork in my hand, and only when I'd eaten half did he say, "Remember that cruise I booked? Next month?" I blinked. "The Mediterranean one?" "My friend can't make it." His eyes were steady, warm. "Come with me." "What week is it?" He checked his phone, told me. The exact week I was supposed to be standing in front of 200 strangers, pretending I couldn't feel the absence beside me. I laughed then, one sharp, wild sound that startled us both. "Perfect," I said, and meant it. That night, the messages began in earnest. Marcus started with reasonable. "We should talk like adults. You're overreacting." He pivoted to fragile. "I can't sleep. How could you do this to me?" Then to threats. "If you don't come back, I'm keeping the deposits. I'll sue you for emotional distress. You'll regret this." I responded once. "Per your words, your wedding, your rules. Handle it however you want." Hayden whistled low when I showed him the screen. "He's going to escalate," he said. "I know," I replied, sliding my grandmother's ring box into the nightstand. "So will I, with facts." Before bed, Hayden scrolled through excursion options on his phone and held it out. Sleek blue sea, old stone cities, sun like a blessing on the water. "Pick two," he said. I picked three. When the dark finally settled, the silence in the guest room didn't feel empty. It felt like space. Like a life that had been crowded by someone else's voice was finally wide enough to hear my own. Somewhere between sleep and morning, I saw the aisle again. Not the one we'd booked, but another one, made of water and bright air, where nobody waited to claim me at the end. I was already mine. The last thing I thought before I drifted off was simple and absolute. There are lines you don't cross. The first is the line that keeps me with my brother, and the second is the one that keeps me with myself. By the next morning, the calm had hardened into resolve. Marcus had made his move. Now it was my turn. Now it anais. I brewed coffee in Hayden's kitchen, scrolling through my banking app like an archaeologist studying ruins. There it was, line after line, venue deposit, caterer retainer, floral down payment, all in my name, all paid from my account. Every financial breadcrumb led straight back to me. Hayden peered over my shoulder. "Looks like you've been financing his fairy tale." "I know," I said quietly, "but the story's about to change." That afternoon, I called the venue. "Hi, this is Arden Vale. I'm canceling our booking." The coordinator sounded startled. "Oh dear, may I ask why?" "Because the groom uninvited my only family," I said evenly, "and I uninvited myself." A long pause, then softly. "Understood." By the end of the call, I had confirmation of a refund, minus a small fee, processing back to my card. One by one, I called every vendor, photographer, caterer, band. Each conversation ended the same way. Professional sympathy, a partial refund, and relief. I didn't feel victorious. I felt awake. 3 days later, Marcus texted again. "Marcus, can we talk?" Me. "About what?" "Marcus, this whole situation. You're throwing away 3 years over a misunderstanding." Me. "You uninvited my brother." Marcus. "He disrespected me." Me. "He questioned gold-plated chargers. That's not disrespect. That's financial literacy." No reply. An hour later, a new message. Marcus. "Fine, be petty. But since you're canceling everything, I expect reimbursement for my half of the deposits." I smiled at the word half. Me. "Marcus, your half was emotional support. I'll issue a refund for that as soon as my therapist learns how to quantify irony." Hayden snorted when I read it aloud. "Oof, that's going to sting." By the end of the week, Marcus's mother called. "Arden," she began, voice syrupy and sharp, "I'm disappointed. Marcus tells me you've left him and refused to pay vendors. You do realize how that looks?" I took a deep breath. "Mrs. Carrington, I've already canceled the contracts that were in my name. The refunds are being processed back to me. You're welcome to rebook the vendors yourselves if you'd like. That's absurd, she snapped. You can't just walk away. This was a joint commitment. Actually, I said, it wasn't. The contracts were mine. The expenses were mine. The only thing that was joint was the stress. Her silence was icy and magnificent. Later that night, Hayden and I ordered takeout and watched old black and white movies. Halfway through Casablanca, his phone buzzed. He frowned, read the screen, and burst out laughing. Marcus posted on social media, he said. Apparently, you're a controlling narcissist who tried to isolate him from his support system. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, the irony. Hayden scrolled further, then grinned. And wait, he says you canceled the wedding because you couldn't handle his independent spirit. I nearly choked on my lo mein. Independent spirit? The man couldn't buy napkins without sending me 3 options. Should I comment? Hayden asked, teasing. No, let him talk. The truth doesn't need to yell, it just waits. But I underestimated my brother's sense of justice. 10 minutes later, I saw the post again. And there, in the comments, was his reply. Hayden, the wedding with the $3,000 chocolate swans, the one where you uninvited his only family, that wedding? The post vanished within an hour. But screenshots? Screenshots live forever. 2 days later, the next call came from Marcus's father, Richard Carrington, the kind of man whose voice carried both wealth and exhaustion. Arden, he said, I need to clarify something. How much did you contribute to this wedding? I pulled up my notes. Roughly $45,000 so far. He paused. 45. Marcus told us you were contributing a little. He said we were paying for most of it. I leaned back. You paid for his suit, correct? Yes, and the flowers. 8,000 total. Then your son misinformed you, I said simply. I can forward all contracts and receipts. No need, he said, his tone shifting. I believe you. Thank you for your honesty. By the next morning, Marcus called, furious. What the hell did you tell my dad? The truth, I said. You made me look bad. You did that yourself, Marcus. All I did was hold up a mirror. He hung up. That night, Hayden poured us both a drink. You know, he said, this could all end up worse for him than for you. I looked up. How do you mean? He's unraveling. He's about to start making mistakes. Loud ones. He was right. Over the next week, Marcus cycled through desperation like it was a sport. First came the long, pleading emails. We can fix this, Arden. We're meant to be. Then came the threats. You owe me. You ruined my reputation. You'll pay. Finally, the masterpiece. An email labeled Legal Notice. Inside was a self-written demand for $75,000 in emotional damages for breach of promise. Hayden nearly spit out his drink reading it. Emotional damages? What's next? A tax on disappointment? I forwarded the email to a lawyer friend who laughed for 5 full minutes before replying. He'd have to prove emotional distress. All you have to prove is receipts. I smiled. Oh, I have plenty of those. By Friday, the chaos had started to quiet. Marcus's posts dried up. His friends stopped commenting. Even his mother went silent. But silence doesn't mean peace. It's just the inhale before the next storm. On Saturday, security from my office building called. Ms. Vale, there's a man in the lobby asking to see you. Says it's urgent. Name's Marcus Carrington. Of course it was. I exhaled. Tell him I'm unavailable. He's refusing to leave. My pulse steadied. Then call the police and send me the footage. Because some people don't learn until the consequences arrive in uniform. That night, I sat at Hayden's kitchen table, scrolling through the feed one last time. Marcus's old posts, the ones where we'd looked like the perfect couple, were still there, glossy and hollow. I could almost hear my grandmother's voice in the back of my mind. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I whispered, I believe you now. The air was still. Hayden looked up from his laptop. You ready for this cruise? More than ready, I said. I think I need the ocean to rinse all this off. He grinned. Then let's start packing. You never know what else he'll try before we sail. I didn't know it yet, but he was right. The real storm, the public one, was still coming. And when it hit, it would blow every lie Marcus ever told straight into the light. If you've never seen a man unravel in real time, let me tell you, it's both tragic and terrifying. The week before the cruise, Marcus started showing up everywhere I wasn't supposed to see him. He left a box of pastries outside Hayden's apartment with a note. For the woman I still love, let's talk like adults. Hayden took one look at the note and tossed the box straight in the trash. No point checking for poison, he muttered. This one's already toxic. I laughed, but my stomach was tight. I'd seen heartbreak before. This was different. It wasn't grief. It was control, refusing to die. 2 days later, my office called. Arden, someone's asking questions about you at reception. Claims to be your fiancé. My heart went cold. He's not. They transferred him to HR before I could react. I found out later he told them I was emotionally unstable and might be a danger to myself. HR conducted a wellness check. Awkward, kind, mortifying. They found me halfway through grading essays, eating pretzels, alive and annoyed. When I explained the situation, my manager nodded slowly. We'll be documenting this, and flagging his number. The relief that followed wasn't just professional, it was personal, a signal that his narrative was finally running out of audience. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Dozens of fake accounts, messages about karma, loneliness, no one will ever love you like I did. Hayden scrolled through them and started replying with links to travel brochures. Thinking of you from the Caribbean. This beach has no Wi-Fi. Perfect for ignoring nonsense. The absurdity broke the tension, and we laughed until my ribs hurt. But behind the humor, I could feel something dangerous building. Marcus was losing control of the story, and people like him don't handle that quietly. On Thursday, there was a knock at Hayden's door. A man stood there, broad-shouldered, wearing a too-tight t-shirt. You Arden? I nodded slowly. Name's Trent, Marcus's brother. He says you owe him an apology. Hayden stepped forward before I could answer. You've got 5 seconds to step back from this door. Trent blinked. Whoa, relax. Just trying to talk some sense into her. You don't want this to get messy. Hayden smiled, not the friendly kind. Buddy, I am the mess. Trent turned pale, muttered something about crazy families, and left. By sunset, he'd received a cease and desist letter from my lawyer friend, complete with time-stamped screenshots of his doorstep visit. Hayden grinned as he sealed the envelope. Nothing like legal paper to remind idiots there's Wi-Fi in hell. The next blow came disguised as civility. A letter from Marcus's attorney, or rather, the one he'd found on the internet and probably paid in promises. Our client, Mr. Carrington, seeks damages in the amount of $75,000 for emotional distress, breach of promise, and loss of reputation. My lawyer friend practically howled. Loss of reputation? He's doing that for free. We filed our own notice, outlining harassment, defamation, and the previous police incident at my workplace. Within a week, Marcus's case vanished like fog under sun. But he wasn't done yet. Saturday night, 2 a.m., the doorbell rang. I froze. Hayden was out of town visiting a friend. The city was quiet, the kind of silence that makes sound travel differently. The bell rang again, long, insistent. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus, disheveled, eyes glassy, holding flowers that had started to wilt. Arden, he slurred, we need closure. I didn't open the door. He pressed his forehead against the glass. You can't just erase us! Behind him, someone giggled. His friend Ashley, the bridesmaid who'd once told me I was lucky he settled down. This is so romantic, she said, like a movie. I dialed 911. The police arrived within 10 minutes. The building's security camera caught everything. Marcus insisting he still lived here, Ashley filming him, confessing his love, and both of them arguing when officers asked for ID. She's my fiancée, Marcus shouted. Sir, one officer said, weary, your address doesn't match hers. We're basically married. The officer sighed. Not in any way that counts. They escorted him out while Ashley tried to claim it was performance art. When they called me from the station asking if I wanted to press charges, I asked, has he learned his lesson? He's demanding we arrest you for theft of wedding deposits, the officer said. I exhaled. Then yes, I'd like to press charges. By Monday, Marcus's father, Richard, called me again. Was that really necessary? He asked. Was showing up drunk at 2 a.m. necessary? I countered. He groaned. You're right. I'm sorry. He's out of control. We're handling it. Handling how? Therapy, professional help, and financial cutoff. There was a long silence. Then he added quietly, he told me you were poor, that your business was failing. That's why he paid for the wedding. I nearly laughed. He said that? Yes, which is strange, since you've just sent me proof he contributed nothing. I don't know who my son is anymore. Maybe now you do, I said gently. By Thursday, the restraining order was approved. 500 feet from my home, workplace, and person. When the papers arrived, I laid them flat on the kitchen counter and stared for a long time. Not with satisfaction, with finality. It wasn't revenge, it was closure on paper. The night before the cruise, Hayden opened a bottle of cheap champagne. To boundaries, he said, raising his glass. I clinked mine against his. To consequences. He smirked. Your wedding, your consequences. We laughed. The first real, unguarded laugh I'd had in months. Neither of us knew that while we were toasting freedom, Marcus was already planning his grand finale, the one that would make him famous for all the wrong reasons. But that revelation would come soon enough. For now, I was ready to trade courtroom drama for ocean air, ready to leave the noise behind and let the waves write the next chapter. 3 days later, Hayden and I boarded the cruise ship that was supposed to have been my honeymoon week. As the port shrank behind us, I let the wind pull the last scraps of tension out of my lungs. Blue water, clean horizon, no inbox, no Marcus. For 48 hours, life was sunshine and shrimp cocktails. Hayden entered every trivia contest on board. I lost every one and didn't care. It felt good to laugh without looking over my shoulder. Then, on day 3, Hayden's phone started vibrating nonstop. He frowned, thumbed through the notifications, and froze. Arden, you need to see this. It was a live stream. Marcus, wearing his tux, was standing on the front lawn of his parents' mansion, a white arch behind him, guests milling around in confusion. His caption read, "The show must go on." I blinked. "You're kidding." "Nope," Hayden said. "He's actually holding the wedding." Without a bride. The feed shook as someone's cousin narrated like a sportscaster. "And here comes the groom, alone at the altar. Bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off." Guests whispered. His mother clutched a champagne flute like a weapon. His father kept checking his phone, probably the venue confirming the event had been canceled weeks ago. Marcus kept insisting, voice cracking. "She'll be here. She loves me. She wouldn't miss this." 2 hours passed on camera. No bride, no band, just murmurs and wilted flowers. When someone finally asked, "Wait, didn't he uninvite her brother?" Another voice, Uncle Robert, answered, "You mean the brother who raised her? The one she paid for the wedding with?" Marcus shouted something unintelligible, threw the bouquet at him, and stormed off screen. The crowd scattered like startled birds. The clip went semi-viral before dessert. Comments poured in. Girl dodged a torpedo. He really married his ego. Imagine RSVPing to emotional damage. Hayden laughed so hard he cried. The bartender, overhearing the commentary, comped our drinks. "Here's to smooth sailing," he said. By the next morning, my inbox overflowed. 17 messages from unknown numbers, Marcus's family, friends, even old coworkers. I didn't read them. I did open one from Richard Carrington, his father. "Arden, I'm appalled. He needs help, and he's getting it. Therapy starts Monday. I've cut off his access to funds. You owe him nothing. Enjoy your vacation. You've earned it." I closed the email and looked out at the water, sunlight glittering like freedom itself. For once, the drama wasn't mine to fix. That night, Hayden and I stood on the upper deck, watching the sea dissolve into darkness. "Think he'll learn anything from this?" he asked. "Maybe," I said, "but even if he doesn't, I did." "What's that?" "That love isn't proof of loyalty," I said quietly. "Boundaries are." He raised his glass. "To boundaries, then." We clinked our drinks as the ship cut a white trail through the dark water, carrying us farther from everything that no longer deserved us. I didn't know it yet, but the world on shore had already moved on. Screenshots. Memes. The clip of Marcus's one-man wedding would live forever in digital amber. Meanwhile, I finally had what I'd been chasing for years. Silence that didn't hurt. 2 months later, the chaos was a story other people told. The wedding that wasn't became gossip fuel for strangers, a cautionary tale for vendors, and a meme that outlived its participants. But for me, Arden Vale, it was just something I'd walked through and left behind. Life had grown calm again. I woke early, made my own breakfast, and didn't flinch at the sight of my phone lighting up. No more fake accounts, no more pleading texts, just quiet. Then, one afternoon, a new email appeared. Subject line, important update. It was from my lawyer. "He tried one more stunt," it began. "Claimed you were pregnant with his child. Demanded that you do the right thing. I requested a paternity test. He withdrew the claim within 24 hours. I stared at the screen, a slow, tired laugh slipping out. "Of course he did," I murmured. Hayden looked up from his book. "Let me guess. False positive?" "False everything," I said, "but it's over." He nodded. "It's been over for a while. He just hadn't noticed yet." A week later, I got a call from Richard Carrington. His voice was softer this time, almost weary. "I wanted to apologize again," he said. "Marcus is getting help. Therapy, intensive. The diagnosis was hard to hear. Narcissistic traits, compulsive entitlement. But he's finally facing it. I'm covering his treatment, but cutting off everything else. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel anger, just a quiet kind of pity. That's the right thing to do, I told him. Let him earn his own peace. And you, Richard said, you deserve a better chapter. I hope you find it. I already have, I said. The money I'd recovered from the canceled wedding became something else entirely. Half of it went into a high-yield account. The rest, every dollar of it, paid off Hayden's student loans. He tried to refuse. Arden, you don't have to. I know, I said, but you didn't have to raise me either. He went quiet, the kind of silence that holds 1,000 thank yous. By early autumn, the world had moved on, and so had I. The day the first leaves began to fall, I boarded a plane to Iceland, my first solo trip in years. I stood beneath the northern lights, their ribbons shifting like living water across the sky, and for the first time, I didn't think about what had been taken from me. I thought about what I'd reclaimed. Peace, space, my own voice. One evening, at a small inn near a geothermal spring, I met another traveler, a quiet man named Jonas, recently divorced, eyes kind and tired. We shared stories over hot whiskey and cold air. No sparks, no promises, just two people comparing scars and laughing about how survival always looks different than you think it will. Sometimes healing isn't fireworks, it's a slow sunrise. When I came home, Hayden met me at the airport, waving a ridiculous sign that said, "Welcome back, Miss Boundaries." I laughed until I cried. He grinned. So, how's freedom treating you? Better than marriage ever could have, I said. We drove home with the windows down. The city lights shimmered through the windshield, and I realized I wasn't running from anything anymore. I was simply going forward. A few weeks later, I got an email from the venue manager. Just thought you'd like to know. We added a new policy inspired by your situation. Both parties must now sign off on guest lists and payments before deposits are finalized. Internally, we call it the Arden Clause. I laughed out loud. Hayden framed the email and hung it on his kitchen wall, right next to his coffee maker. I still get the occasional message from someone who saw the viral clip. They ask how I stayed so calm, how I found the strength to walk away. The answer is simple, though it took me years to live it. You don't have to fight every battle. You just have to step out of the arena and close the gate behind you. The last time I heard from Marcus was a single text sent at 1:04 a.m. I miss us. I didn't reply. I just screenshotted it, forwarded it to my lawyer for the record, and then deleted the thread. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Now, every morning, I make coffee, open my balcony door, and watch the sunrise paint the world new again. The air feels light. The silence is mine. And for once, I don't need anyone to tell me I did the right thing. I know it. When someone shows you who they are, my grandmother used to say, believe them the first time. I finally did, and believing it set me free.